How are you this fine day?
Doing well.
Yeah.
How are you doing over there?
Oh, I'm hanging in there. Taking it one breath at a time. I am really noisy with my breathing, I've realized on this podcast.
You learn a lot about yourself recording on a microphone up close and a video.
Yes, especially now that we've got our new microphones that pick up amazingly well.
Yes.
Like last episode, my goodness, the ice was very loud. Wow, what have you got to drink today?
Dr. Pepper. My wife
Good.
has started restocking the fridge as soon as it's out.
Uh-oh.
So
That's a dangerous road.
it is dangerous.
Slippery slope. Yeah, that's right. Slippery slope. Yeah, you've got the tried and true Dr. Pepper. Same here with the Coke. Mine's kind of watered down because it's been sitting around for a while, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I'll take it a little bit.
Just something about having it there.
In your fridge, you mean? Or
very comforting. The cup, the actual cup right there next to you at all times.
Yeah, it's amazing you say that because every now and then, like I'll go to my parents and they have cans in their fridge, and sometimes I'll just get a can of Coke and I'll just have it with me for an hour or two and not even open it, just as my little comfort blanket. And then I'll have to go switch it out for another one that's colder.
It's always like, if I need it, it's right here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right. Well, this is Nancy.
I'm Brando.
And this is our podcast, Somewhat Diverted, where again we take kind of a leisurely stroll down memory lane for most of our movies and TV shows, and give us sort of an evaluation on how entertaining we really find them to be.
I'm excited for the one we've chosen tonight.
It's one of my favorites, if not my favorite. It's got to be probably in my top 5 favorite movies.
All time, across all genres.
Across all genres, it is wonderful. And I watched it just the other day, just kind of in preparation for this episode. And yes, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. But the movie we're talking about is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And we mentioned that last episode. Also, last episode we mentioned a contest. Now, I don't know if the contest is still going on or not because we record these kind of in advance. We're cheating a little bit, and we're kind of banking some episodes in case
the industry secret right there.
Holidays come up, right? And we aren't always able to record when we want to. So the contest might still be going on, or someone might have won the free t-shirt. If no one has won the free t-shirt, that's a if. I don't know why I'm doing this. For those watching the video, if you're just listening,
Universal sign of
my
if.
fingers were, yeah. That's it. I thought that was, I don't know what that is.
I was trying to help you out. I don't
know. What was I talking about?
The contest.
I lose my train of thought so easy. The contest, like from Seinfeld?
That was last week.
Oh, yeah, right. The t-shirt contest. If no one has won it, you need to follow us on Twitter or Instagram and respond to one of our posts, retweet one of our posts, comment on it. Now we have this YouTube channel you can comment on as well. If the contest is still going, if someone has won the shirt, I'll be sure to put that out on social media, and we'll have a new contest in the next month or two, a few weeks. I don't know. It's just kind of random, but we want to try to get you involved as well. Also, just kind of something I thought of, if you have a movie that you want us to review, old movie, new movie, let us know, and we'll do what we can to do that. And how can they let us know? Do you remember where they can
on
find
Twitter
us?
Or Instagram?
Yeah. What's our Twitter handle?
Twitter is at @sdiverted.
Oh, that's good.
And the Instagram is at somewhat diverted.
Perfect. Yeah. And our YouTube channel, we don't have a fancy name for yet because you have to have so many subscribers before you can have a fancy name for it. So it'll be we'll fix that later.
One day.
But this is our first time doing the podcast in video. It's kind of nerve-wracking.
Yeah, when it's just audio, you can count on some splicing and dicing.
Mm-hmm. So what we're planning on doing is splicing and dicing the podcast, and then the video is kind of our raw footage. Covers everything.
Which it may be, because my wife is very close to the field of view of the lens and has threatened background dancing a couple times before recording started. So.
Okay, I don't know what that entails, but all right. Well, this week again, we're going to do Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, one of my favorite movies. Where would you say it ranks on your list of top movies?
It ranks really high. I would feel comfortable saying top 10.
Yeah.
And probably for a couple reasons, just right off the top of my head. One, my dad liked it. And I remember whenever it was on TV, because on TV it was edited and didn't have the the language.
The tirade.
But he just loved the movie. And so he kind of, excitedly showed it to me for the first time, and just a lot of good jokes. And the first time I ever saw it, I was probably, 5 or 6 years old. Well, no, probably more like 7 or 8 or 9 years old even. And the joke about John Candy having his hand between two pillows, which may or may not actually be Steve Martin's bottom, his backside.
You're led to believe.
You're led to believe that.
Mm-hmm.
In context, it makes sense, and it's very funny. And I thought that was, hilarious as a kid. The other reason is it kind of is our first foray into what I think are a pretty special group of movies, connected by the director, John Hughes, and some of our favorite actors, one of them being John Candy.
Yeah.
That's kind of I don't know. I mean, there's other John Hughes movies they're just all, for the most part, pretty good.
I wouldn't say all of them, but a good portion of them are pretty good. Yeah. They kind of defined a generation.
A lot of commercial successes.
Yeah.
Anyway, top 10 is what I would tell you.
Wait, what?
Sorry, top 10 is what I would tell you, because you said, where would I rank it? And I would say top 10 probably for those reasons.
Oh, sorry, my brain just froze on me. I'm having one of those nights. Yeah, for me, it you always talk about the levers. It crosses, so many levers are pushed up to 11. I've got to mark it one of the top movies for me. Great cast, great music, great sound effects, great script, great chemistry among the characters, a good message. And as far as Thanksgiving movies are concerned, it is the number one Thanksgiving movie. There are no, it's not even close. Not even close. It's the number one Thanksgiving movie, in my opinion. But kind of the premise of the movie is, well, Steve Martin, Neil Page, he plays. I don't know what his job is. He's like some marketing director, but anyway, he's trying to get back from New York, right, to Chicago, and he keeps getting. There's a snowstorm in Chicago. He's trying to get back for Thanksgiving. There's a snowstorm in Chicago, so he gets bumped to Wichita, or flown to Wichita, and then there's no hotel rooms. And then there's no more flights because they have all this air traffic backed up. So he's basically trying to get home for Thanksgiving, and he runs into John Candy's character, Dale Griffith. I always think of being from Utah. I think of Daryl Griffith, who played for the Jazz, but Dale Griffith.
They
and
look similar, so it's easy, understandable.
Very identical. Actually, they might be about the same height. Anyway, that's basically the premise of the movie, and they just kind of go through, like you mentioned in Seinfeld. About Seinfeld, we talked about George being the character that just has these unfortunate incidents befall him, and he just kind of he takes it, but he's just kind of begrudgingly going through it. Neil Page, Steve Martin's character, is similar. He just has these horrible things happen to him, and he kind of begrudgingly takes it, but he's also kind of vicious.
Yeah, he's a little bit deserving of some of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unlike George, where I just kind of feel sorry for him most of the time.
Right. Yeah. Rarely do you feel sorry for Steve Martin in this movie. Yeah. So that's the premise. Some of my favorite parts from this movie, it's really just, it's a collection of scenes for me. It tells a story, but it's just a collection of scenes. There are so many good scenes right from the get-go. You've got Steve Martin in the meeting and there's no words. You've got some Steve Martin kind of banging his airplane ticket on the table and mouthing some stuff, but there's no words. There's just that guy sitting there looking at. Speaking of breathing, that's all he's doing is breathing.
Act it out, where he's just like,
yeah, just looking at these things. Oh, I mean, you go from that scene to Steve Martin running through New York with a little. This always, by the way, helped me with the Kevin Bacon game. Having Kevin Bacon in this movie, which is, it's not the only cameo that Kevin Bacon has.
At the beginning, it's not the only time Kevin Bacon shows up.
Yeah, he shows up also in the movie. I don't remember at what point, but Steve Martin's wife, not his real wife, Neil Page's wife from the movie, is watching. She's having a baby. Is that what it's called? Another John Hughes movie.
Oh yeah, which was actually released after Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, right?
But she's watching it. And Kevin Bacon's, what if the shoe were on the other foot? I'd go barefoot. Kevin Bacon's in that scene.
That's right.
Isn't he? Yeah, he is.
Which is,
I could be making this up.
So strange, because he'd become such a big star just to see him used like that. Just a tiny little.
Yeah, it was great. I almost said fantastic. That's one thing I've noticed in the podcast is I say fantastic a lot. So anytime I say it, if you want to play along, I don't recommend this, but go ahead and take a shot. It's the somewhat diverted drinking game. When Nancy says fantastic, I'll take a swig of Coke when I say it.
So Kevin Bacon, fun fact. Well, no, I don't want to be fun fact guy. I don't want to be fun fact guy all the time. I knew Kevin Bacon was in this movie, and I looked up in preparation for this podcast how many film credits he has, and he has 94 film credits according to IMDb, which is a lot. You go look at other people like I don't know, Bruce Willis, Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt. They're all in like the 80 to 110 range or something like that.
Yeah.
But then, just out of curiosity, I looked up the actor who plays the cab driver that takes him from the New York airport, from the Wichita airport out to the motel.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the same guy who plays Kramer
in the Seinfeld
show within Seinfeld called Jerry, I guess.
Right.
For
the pilot, yeah.
Yeah, his name's Larry.
And he steals the raisins.
Yes. Yeah, and he denies it or gets mad or whatever. But Larry Hankin is his name, and he has twice as many acting credits or film credits as Kevin Bacon.
You want to jump around?
I'm not that good. I'm not as good at that. I can do Seinfeld and this one.
So we can jump around. That same guy, what was his name? The cab driver?
Larry Hankin.
Larry Hankin. He was also in a movie with John Candy called Armed and Dangerous with Eugene Levy.
Okay.
It's another movie from the 80s, and Meg Ryan's in that show. That was a movie from my childhood that me and my sister would watch a lot. There's a part in it where John Candy dresses up as a drag queen, and Eugene Levy dresses up as some dude that's with her, and he has I don't know how to put this. He's wearing assless chaps. They walk out of this adult store, and you just see his butt cheeks walking down the road.
Oh man, the Larry Hankin guy is just one of those, belongs to that class of actor where everyone's seen his face, but it's hard to pinpoint where he's been.
So we're jumping all over the place.
Yeah. Anyway,
but that's okay.
I don't want to be fun fact guy. I just thought that was a fun fact.
I think it's too late. You are fun fact guy. So you can't deny it.
Fun fact guy can kind of wear out his welcome a little kind of quickly.
Yeah.
But anyway,
talking about the scenes in the movie. Yeah. So overall, I've got a few of my favorite scenes. I'll give you 3 because there really are so many. Probably my first overall favorite scene. Oh my goodness, there's just so many that keep coming to mind. Like John Candy reading the book in the airport called The Canadian Mounted, which is a play on Canadian Mounties. Anyway, that's not it. In the hotel room in Wichita, when they first get there, and there's the one bed, that whole set of scenes in that room, when Steve Martin goes on that really rude rant, start talking about, I feel like I'm on the date with a chatty Cathy doll, only I wouldn't pull the string out and snap it back, you would.
Yeah. That's the first time you really feel a bit of sense of tragedy and sadness, right?
Yeah. And then John Candy comes back, and that monologue that he has is if you want to pick on me, I'm an easy target, go ahead. And it's just so sad, and it really hits you. There's more, because he up to that point he's been kind of annoying, and he plays the annoying guy really well, John Candy. So that particular part is one of my favorite scenes. And then we move to I just chuckle, there's too many. All the way to the end, when Steve Martin realizes what's, the situation that John Candy's character is in, old Dale Griffith, and he comes back to that platform after he gets to Chicago, to that train platform, and talking to him, and that leads into the very ending of the show. Those are kind of my two. They really, if I think about the movie, that's what really sets it apart for me, are those 2 scenes.
Yeah.
Is him being so rude, and John Candy says, fine, go ahead, pick on me. And then at the very end, when Steve Martin's kind of changed as a person. Yeah. How about you? What kind of scenes just stand out for you in this film?
I agree with you. Those two are the highlights of the dramatic part of the story. And John Candy, one thing he always did so good was he's super likable, just immediately. I mean, he just looks happy all the time, and just someone you can hang out with. But then he does like tragedy so good. He can immediately go from being funny and silly, or annoying in this case, and in some of his other movies, like Uncle Buck. I feel like he's not quite as annoying, but he's a little bit unaware, lacks self-awareness a little bit.
Yeah.
And but then it can just turn really fast, where you just feel like your heart ripped out for him. Because he's, I don't know if it's because he's kind of a bigger guy and looks like maybe has had a hard time. Anyway, he's very good. John Candy's really, really good. And it's sad that we don't have him around anymore. But scenes wise, I mean, there's tons of comedy. I mean, there's like the slapstick, ridiculous stuff, like their rental car catching on fire and John Candy sleeping out in the car, with the roof all burnt off, and or even the way over the top slapstick comedy where John Candy's driving. Del is driving in a different rental car. Well, no, it's probably that same rental car, actually. Driving that rental car, and Steve Martin goes to sleep. Neil goes to sleep, only to wake up just in time to find out Del has been driving the wrong way for a long time, and they're going right between these two semi trucks. And then you remember all the sparks flying and how they turn into skeletons for just a frame.
And then there's John Candy turns into the devil.
Yeah. So, I mean, there is that.
In that same scene, because Steve Martin wakes up just a little bit before that, and there's that other car yelling at him, telling him they're going the wrong way, and John Candy's like, "Well, he's drunk. How's he know where we're going?" Yep.
The comedy in it is great. The drama is great. One other thing that I really like, this is a hallmark of 80s movies, I feel, that it is, especially from our perspective today, it's refreshingly void of special effects or anything.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a John Hughes thing because he was so big in the 80s, but other movies were that way too. They're just like single camera. I don't know all those film terms, but just like single camera, one shot, very cleverly done. It was more about the dialogue and the characters than it was about big action stuff.
Yeah, and I would concur. I would agree with that. That's one of my. So they try this in movies all the time to have a great buddy comedy. I mean, other buddy comedies that I feel like are really good. You got like David Spade and Chris Farley worked extremely well together.
Yeah.
In their couple of movies they were able to do. But John Candy and Steve Martin in this particular movie have such good chemistry. They play off each other so well. Steve Martin is such a jerk, not like the jerk that he did, which was pretty funny. He comes off so rude and arrogant and
in a different way though than Dr. Leo Marvin that we talked about. What About Bob, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely.
You still can relate to him kind of like as a real guy trying to raise a family, I guess, even though we don't meet his family more than just for a couple minutes, but you still relate to him, but he does have his head in the wrong place, and he's really, really rude to Del.
As Del Griffith says in there, you're not a very tolerant person.
Yeah.
What if your kid spoils his milk? Do you slap him in the head? What's that supposed to mean? Hostile too. What a bad personality complex or mix anyway. So that's aside from the scenes, I would say. Steve Martin, Neil Page.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like inexcusable how
rude he is
times, but I still think you kind of know where he's coming from. He's got a stressful job and a family. And he's trying to get home for Thanksgiving, and Del, starts up on a bad foot, stealing his taxi, and that he just paid some rich, rude guy for.
A lawyer. I think both of them are really relatable. I think we probably all know somebody that's just like Neil Page, and we probably all know somebody that's just like Del Griffith.
Yeah.
Is they're just that relatable, even if they don't fit 100% with their personality. And you hear a bunch of popping noise, if you can see on the video, I'm playing with this yellow waffle thing. If you're just listening.
Thing.
No, it's like this weird yellow waffle. Like my kids call it a waffle, but it's like it's a little game. You push. I'm a fidgeter and I have to do stuff, and that's what I've been playing with.
It looked like an ice tray with those special shaped ice cubes.
No, you just pop these little. I'm doing it right now. You just pop these little buttons. I can't stop fidgeting. That's probably the caffeine.
Del is extremely relatable as well, and I don't want to spoil anything yet because I kind of want you to talk about it.
Oh,
but once you know the whole thing, and then you kind of think back, which the movie gives you a chance to do in flashback form, right? Like a flashback montage kind of. Then it just breaks your heart, and you feel like all of his annoyingness is totally justified and just understandable, and so great character.
What didn't you want to steal from me? Because
sorry. You can explain like what we learn and what Steve Martin, his character develops, and
yes, Steve Martin gets badgered the entire time. It is a lot like What About Bob, because Dr. Leo Marvin gets badgered the entire time. That's really interesting because I feel more for Neil Page's character than I do. Maybe that's because at the end he does have more of a resolution.
Yeah, he
as a person than Dr. Leo Marvin, but
we understand. I feel like Dr. Leo Marvin has no reason to be a jerk.
Yeah,
Steve Martin, even though it's really inexcusable, it's kind of like understandable. He's so stressed, you know.
Yeah. So what did he learn? Not to judge people by what they're like. No, I don't want to get into morals. How
did he learn it? You tell us how he learned it. It was, I mean, this is what makes the movie so great. If it was stripped of all of its dramatic elements, the comedy is great.
Well, when he gets home to Chicago, he's on the train. Del Griffith sees him onto the train, and you know, good to meet you. That was fun, yada yada. And like you said, there's the montage of the scenes that kind of relives this adventure that Steve Martin's character, Neil Page, went on from start to finish. First having his cab stolen, but he doesn't think about some of those. He thinks about these other instances, like some of the funnier things that happened, like the hand between two pillows and the car on fire, and or you know, staying up late with John Candy talking about their wives, but it just kind of starts to dawn on Steve Martin some of the things that John Candy has said, Del Griffith has said throughout the movie, starting with when Steve Martin, when they're up at night after their car was on fire in the hotel, and and Steve Martin says, "At least of all, we've got two women who love us," and something like that. And John Candy doesn't really say anything; he just kind of nods. So that's kind of a first clue. And then it goes to them at the diner when they're talking, and Neil Page says, "I haven't been home in years," and then Del Griffith says that I haven't been home in years. And so Steve Martin and Neil Page starts to piece these things together and realize something's not right. Something just doesn't add up, right? And so he tries to go back to talk to John Candy, to talk to Del Griffith, and he ends up back at the same station, and he's running to see who's there, and he ends up being there, and he finally just asks him, like, "What's going on? Why are you still here?" And then you find out that I'm going to get emotional over this because that's
touching.
I'm not going to get emotional. Don't worry. I'm going to hold it in because that's what I do. But no, he finds him, asks what's going on. And he says, he asks, "How come you're not going home?" And Del Griffith or John Candy says, I don't have a home. And then you find out Marie, his wife, has been dead for what, 8 years or something like that.
Long
Um,
time.
and it doesn't really say anything else. They're just looking at each other, and the next thing you see is Steve Martin and John Candy, or we keep going back and forth with their names, Neil Page and Del Griffith, carrying his big, what would you call that, big box luggage down the street, and talking about, I'm not going to stay long, I'll just step in for a minute. And Steve Martin, Neil Page is like, no. He's just kind of brushing him off. And you get the intent, the thought that Steve Martin has realized that he's a good guy, or Neil Page has realized that Del Griffith is actually a good guy, and he's just trying to find some consistency in his life that he's missing since his wife died, and he has no home. So he's bringing him back to his house. My understanding of it is to live with him while he gets back on his feet.
Yeah.
And it's just this. So you go through the whole movie laughing, thinking he's just a goof and somewhat annoying, and in the end you find out, well, no, he's really just trying to kind of show off and be knowledgeable and be funny and be all this and that. So he makes friends, and as he makes friends with everybody he meets, and he really likes this Neil Page character, and he's struggling trying to make friends with him, and that's what he's really trying hard to do.
Yeah.
He just needed to sell him some shower curtain rings.
Yeah. Carries his little SWAT. I don't know if you call it a swatch, his little sample box of hooks. That was one thing watching it again that stood out to me, or a few things I noticed I didn't remember, was how he is good friends with everyone. Like the motel, the first motel they go to in Wichita after their plane is diverted, he's like, "Hey Del, how's it going?" He's like, "Oh, hey, me and my friend here need a room." And
still $1 million shy of being a millionaire.
Yeah. He just, I feel like that. I don't know let's see, what am I trying to say here? I feel like what happens, maybe for me, maybe this isn't for everyone, but Neil Page's character, I can kind of relate to him. I probably have lost my temper with someone being a little bit annoying for some reason before, and regretted.
It hasn't, right?
Regretted saying something after you, especially when you find out something later about them, like that they're struggling with something. And then you get to go through all their shenanigans and all the struggles and all the funny things. And then that flashback at the end, I think, is a genius part of the movie, because it kind of, where I'm like riding along with Neil Page, who I would say is the protagonist. I don't know. Would you say he's the protagonist?
Yeah.
He's the one that makes the change, like the one that's actually growing in the movie. And when you have that flashback, like that's when your feelings change in the movie. You're like, oh man, this guy's really actually kind of tragic, because you've noticed the things, like he carries the picture of his wife around,
right?
The framed picture, the little comments, he says those comments in the movie, and then the flashback, you see them again and kind of understand where it's going. So you almost get to live the change with Steve Martin, and it's pretty emotional and powerful. And you're right, it is a great story, and all your sort of frustrations, if you had any, or just the sort of the things you laugh about at Del, once you learn that story, they kind of become lovable, not just funny, annoying, but they're kind of like, oh man, he's a lovable guy.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons that John Candy works so well with John Hughes, because John Hughes has a lot of that in his movies, those lovable characters. But I feel like John Candy is just that everyman. Yeah, he's like you said, you just want to hang out with him. Anyway, I wish I could hang out with him.
He's not intimidating in any way.
No.
Like kind of some other macho actor characters where, but yeah, he's just kind of warm and inviting right from the beginning. And I was
reading his Harlequin romance novel, Canadian Mountain.
The first time Neil sees him, right?
Right.
Well, he sees him in the cab, and then
sees him at the airport.
One thing on a serious note, still, while we're talking about this sort of tender drama side of the show, I just heard this simple quote that's probably been said before. We teach, you and I teach, as we've mentioned before, and a lot of times I think it's kind of a classic thing for a teacher to say when a kid acts out, oh, you're just looking for attention. And at least maybe not even just in teaching, but whenever kids act out, adults are like, oh, he's just looking for attention. And somebody else, or some tweet or something, I just read this in the last month, said, say to yourself, or train yourself to say they're just looking for relationships instead of attention, and it will change your attitude towards them. Yeah. And I really have tried this year in junior high. And I haven't had too many wild kids, I think, because of the COVID situation where we don't have as many kids in the classroom. But the few that have kind of like said funny things or lingered after class to talk to me about stuff that just seemed like excruciatingly detailed anecdotes that seem really boring.
Right.
And I say to myself, looking for relationships, not looking for attention. And that really has changed the way I feel about it, if I remember to tell myself that. And that's kind of the lesson here too with John Candy, when Neil learns that Dell's character is on his own, probably not making a lot of money, but just being a good guy, loyal to his wife and his wife who's passed away. Once you learn their story and that he's just looking for relationships, friendships and connections, then that totally changes your perspective on, oh, this guy's just looking for attention, or he's annoying. So yeah. I thought that has been a great tool just in the last few weeks where I've tried it, and it's really evened out my frustration that kind of happens in the first.
So here on Somewhat Diverted, we also try to give out morals to the story.
This is like the Full House of podcasts.
Who's Bob Saget? The correct answer is none of us, because we're not telling dirty jokes.
I had a student print out a picture of Bob Saget and bring it to class and stick it over a picture of me that was hung up in class on the wall.
Right, I remember this.
Why did you do that? And he said, you look just like Bob Saget. I was not really flattered, to be honest.
He's not horribly unattractive.
Not horrible, but
no.
I would have hoped for Leonardo DiCaprio or something. I don't know.
Well, keep hoping.
Not in this life.
Yeah, for this podcast and none of us are Bob Saget, because we got to keep this PG/PG-13, and he's got naughty humor.
That was a shock to all of us who got to know him on Full House, and then later his comedy.
We're just jumping around. So this particular movie, like I said, it's one of my favorites. I'm going to give it an incredibly diverting.
Okay.
Because it's probably a movie I've seen. We talk about movies in the first episode, movies that we've seen a lot of. I've probably seen this as much as most of the movies how do I say that? As much as most of the movies, that doesn't make sense. I've probably seen this, I normally say half a dozen times. I've probably seen this at least a dozen times. And it doesn't fail every time to get me into the movie, to get me engrossed in the story, and to make me feel something, some form of emotion, other than just comedy, like multiple forms of emotion as I watch the movie. So to me, this is an incredibly diverting movie.
I like that. I think on our What About Bob episode, I said that What About Bob was extremely diverting.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some similarities between the two, and the comedy, I think between the two are on par with each other. But I would agree that the added drama that's not done in an over-the-top melodramatic way, it's done in just a really sweet way.
Mm-hmm.
That and also a little bit of the holiday spirit thrown in there, I suppose.
Yeah.
I'm going to join you in saying for the first time, not to copy you, but I think that that's a perfect description of one step up. I'm going to say that it's also incredibly diverted. I'm incredibly diverting. And I didn't have that preset in my mind, but when you said that, it matches my feeling.
Well, we aren't going to break the computer system that way. I
Which
mean,
makes our average, pretty easy.
yeah, it's incredibly diverting. I would say it's just as good, if not better, than What About Bob, which broke our machine.
Yeah.
Mostly because I couldn't think of what to come up with, but it broke my brain. But no, it's of all the movies we've evaluated so far in TV shows, for me, this so far is the top. It's the top one.
It's really, really good.
If you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend it. If you've seen it, I would recommend to watch it again, especially if it's been a while. But it's getting close to Thanksgiving for those that celebrate it. And the movie's about being with family and finding new family in the case of Del Griffith. And yeah, I would recommend to watch it.
It's terrific.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you extended the challenge earlier that people give us a movie or a TV show to rate, I think that's probably good because we haven't really picked one that we've totally hated yet.
Right.
And
we've just been picking movies based on nostalgia, basically.
Yeah, mostly nostalgia.
or the ones that, like Unhinged, where we just happen to have seen it together recently.
Right. So that'd be great to get one where we really have to get in there deep and maybe hurt someone's feelings.
Yeah. Let's get real. It's about get real. Let's do it. I will say, for those that are listening, if you need to give us a subscribe, you need to. And I'm doing the force thing. You need to. For those watching for the first time on the YouTubes, give us a subscribe there at the bottom and a like for the video. And next week, let's just leave it up in the air. How about that?
Okay. Let it come to us more by inspiration.
Yeah.
Rather than planning.
Planning it and setting it in stone, then we can make changes. Okay. That's really the plan behind it. Oh, but we'll get another one out next week, and for those that celebrated Halloween, hopefully had a good time and didn't get COVID. And those getting ready to celebrate Thanksgiving, or what is it in Canada? Is it
Canadian Thanksgiving?
When is that though? It's not the same time.
October.
Oh, so we already passed it?
Maybe.
Hopefully you had a good one. Those Canadians.
Don't quote me on that.
The only other holiday I know of is Boxing Day, but that's like the day after Christmas.
Yeah, which has nothing to do with the sport.
No. But anyway, we wish the best for the holiday season, and give us likes and follows, and we just want to be liked.
Yeah, so we can make more videos.
Yeah.
And possibly upgrade our backdrops and
yeah. You should have something playing on the TV so we get copyright infringement.
You know what I did have on there was Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, because I was watching some of it today.
Oh. Oh my goodness. I have a problem with movies, and I can just play them in my head if I've seen them long enough. And I used to work for the postal encoding center, where you just did nothing but type. So for the entire shift, you were there. And it was when iPods were a big thing. I got an iPod, and I just copied. I had a bunch of movies, and movies I'd seen a lot of. I would just copy the audio file from the movie, and I would just listen to the movie, and I could play it through my head. Like Willow was one of them.
Oh, really? So you weren't even watching anything.
I wasn't watching it. I was just listening to it, and I've seen it so many times. I knew what was happening. So
that's impressive.
Yeah. Anyway, my drink is empty.
Mine is too.
So there's that.